I'm coming to you live from my closet. So, the workshop that I attended recently suggested that the best place to record is in your closet because of the acoustics and all that stuff. I'm not so sure about the lighting, and of course, you've got all of this stuff around me. Anyway, so just kind of overlook that. I'm experimenting. This week, we start talking about medieval poetry. And I'm going to switch things up a little bit, do things a little differently. So be sure to check your assignment. If you follow what is in Blackboard, you'll do fine. So what I'm going to do, instead of posting some discussion questions, I'm going to assign each person a segment of a poem to analyze for your discussion. You'll see how it works when I get it set up, so be sure to look for that. So we're talking about medieval poetry this week, and I'm really looking forward to jumping into Dante's Inferno. So that's coming up later in the week. But first of all, let's talk a little about lyric poetry. Lyric poetry during the medieval period was often accompanied by instruments and or set to music. So it was actually called lyrical because it was usually recited while the reciter or someone else was playing a lyre, Lyre, which is like this little harp kind of thing. So these lyrical works included devotional poetry, philosophical ideas, and courtly songs. Courtly songs are, like if you're courting someone. So romantic love songs. Poets of the medieval lyrics represented different social classes, religions, and different cultural backgrounds. They also represented different artistic capabilities. One characteristic central to this collection is the lyrical aspect of it. Today it seems like we think lyrics have to rhyme, and some of these actually do rhyme. In ancient Western world, poetry, music, dance, and rhetoric had been disciplines that gathered under the single term song or aodos. Even ordinary speech possessed a basic melodic structure based on pitch variations indicated by accents and syllables and vowel combinations. Increasingly, though, these disciplines became separate. So, say a performer no longer mastered several forms, but instead they specialized in one form or the other. Sort of like, actually, you can see this in American entertainment. Back in the 40s, an entertainer generally acted, sang, and danced. But now we have people who are very specifically just actors or just singers or just dancers. So it's kind of the same thing that we're talking about here. Poetry was divided into types: lyric poetry, detached from dramatic and epic poetry, and poetry used for entertainment purposes. The troubadours, many of whom are represented here in this collection that we're going to be reading, were composers and performers of verse who thought to hail from Occitania and who established their lyric traditions throughout Europe by the 12th century AD. Troubadour songs usually addressed chivalry and courtly love, and many lyrical poets of the period employed stylistic devices and structures that lent to the work's performance, contest, musicality, and dance. Now, if you've studied any history at all, you know that the medieval time is known for this notion of courtly love that begins to develop. But medieval lyrics are characterized not only as love poems or works of chivalry, but also as devotional and philosophical texts in which poets explored their relationship with God and with themselves. These works often make reference to ancient myths and gods and religious creeds. They utilize jargon from academic disciplines or from styles of earlier lyrical poets. Boethius is one of these. He refers to Orphic myth in the Consolation of Philosophy as the patriarch of lyric poetry. Orpheus also represents the loss of one's beloved at the mercy of others' jealousy and revenge, as well as the consequences of the artist suffers for love. His muse replaces love for his craft. Readers find in Boethius a lesson similar to that presented in Farid Undin Attar's The Conference of the Birds. The idea is that all is lost if one turns away from the light, which is a Platonic reference, Platonic meaning Plato, reference to the truth, and Islamic reference to God or Islam. To look downward for classical and Islamic writers both, the physical world of illusion. Similarly, in Gentle Now Doves, animal and natural pairings and references to real places along with the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca parallel the spiritual journey a Muslim has to make in order to achieve union with the divine. Devotional poetry often makes an erotic allusion to the marriage between church and Jesus, or woman and God. In both of Hildegard of Bingen's poems titled Responsory for the Virgin, you'll see that. For the medieval writers, love is mirrored in nature. Through metaphor and meter, and physical love becomes intrinsically bound to physical beauty and health, to the extent that most of the works on love stipulate that a blind, excessively passionate, or aged person cannot experience true love. Ovid, like Andreas Capanellus, stated in his Ars Amorosa that to find a fitting mistress, use your eyes. And he compares a man's search for a lover to the hunter's pursuit of the stag. So that wraps up our look at medieval poetry for this introduction to medieval poetry. Don't forget that your discussions will be a little different this week, so make sure you watch for those details. Everyone will have something very specific to answer. You'll still need to respond to classmates, and I will outline all that in your directions. So from my closet, have a good rest of the week.